For more than 1,000 years, entire sections of our history have been erased, hidden, and rewritten by those in power. The version of history most people know is an illusion, deliberately crafted to keep the masses ignorant, submissive, and under control. The Gnostics were aware of this deception. They understood that the God worshipped by billions was not the true creator but a counterfeit, a cosmic pretender who trapped humanity in a false reality. Ancient texts, once hunted and destroyed by the Church, documented this knowledge. Some of these writings survived, revealing truths that are mind-blowing. At the center of Gnostic belief is a being called Bythos, the primal and unknowable source of all existence, beyond human understanding. From Bythos emerged divine emanations known as Aeons, each representing aspects of supreme reality. These Aeons were not like the gods most people are familiar with, jealous rulers demanding worship. They were manifestations of wisdom, knowledge, light, and power. Yet today, most of these Aeons have been forgotten because knowledge is dangerous. When people understand the true nature of reality, they can no longer be manipulated. One of the most crucial and deliberately erased Aeons was Horos, the cosmic boundary, the force that separated the pure divine world, the pleroma, from the corrupted physical world. Without him, chaos would have overwhelmed existence. Horos not only divided the divine from the material but also stood between the true God and the impostor God. The Gnostics believed that a great tragedy occurred within the divine realms, leading to the creation of the Demiurge, who is falsely worshipped as the creator by billions today. However, the Demiurge was no creator. He was a mistake born from an unbalanced act of creation by Sophia, the embodiment of wisdom. Her flawed creation led to the birth of an arrogant, power-hungry entity who was cut off from true divinity. This entity, the Demiurge, mistakenly believed he was the one and only God. He constructed a prison out of matter, enslaving souls in the physical world, while his archons, cosmic enforcers, upheld his rule. The Aeons, including Horos, knew the Demiurge for what he truly was. Horos became the last defense, the final veil between the true divine realm and the prison of matter. Had Horos' knowledge been preserved in history, the entire system of religious control would collapse. For once people understand the structure of reality, they can no longer be bound by it. Thus, the early church labeled the Gnostics as heretics, hunted them down, and destroyed their scriptures. Texts like the Apocryphon of John and the Gospel of Truth were nearly wiped out. But some knowledge survived through hidden caches like the Nag Hammadi library. Even now, these truths remain buried. Among the many forgotten Aeons, Abaddon stands out. While mainstream religious texts depict him as a terrifying destroyer, the Gnostic and Esoteric traditions tell a different story. Abaddon was not a force of destruction in the simple sense. He was a force of transformation, tearing down the illusions that kept humanity blind. He opposed the false order imposed by the Demiurge and threatened the system that enslaved humanity. In Gnostic and Kabbalistic teachings, Abaddon was not just a figure of apocalypse but a gatekeeper, standing between this corrupt world and the realms beyond. His abyss wasn't a place of damnation. It was an escape, a passage to a higher truth. The mainstream portrayal of Abaddon as an agent of divine wrath serves to conceal his true role. If the god of this world is an impostor, what does it mean to be judged by him? The Gnostics saw Abaddon as a force of purification, one who heralded the breakdown of the control systems that kept humanity in chains. Throughout history, Abaddon has been invoked by secret societies, mystics, and alchemists, all of whom understood that destruction is not inherently evil. It represents the end of one system and the beginning of another. Horos, a name now erased from religious doctrine, was not dangerous to humanity but to the system that controls it. He was the boundary that separated the divine realm from the flawed material world. He didn't just seal the Demiurge out of the divine realm. He also trapped divine sparks, or human souls, within the material world. According to the Gnostics, our souls are divine sparks trapped in this false reality, and salvation lies in transcending the barrier, not in obedience to an impostor god. Horos was not just a guardian but a test, a challenge that only those ready for enlightenment could overcome. Salvation, according to the Gnostics, was not a matter of faith or obedience. It was about attaining inner knowledge or gnosis and escaping the material illusion. The Aeons, especially Horos, were not meant to be worshipped. They were guides, helping humanity return to its divine origins. However, mainstream religion twisted this knowledge, replacing it with obedience and submission to a false god. Sophia, the embodiment of wisdom, was never meant to make a mistake. But when she acted without her divine counterpart, the balance was lost, and her creation, the Demiurge, was born flawed. The Gnostics understood this, and they knew that true liberation from this world wasn't about awaiting salvation. It was about breaking free from the illusions that bind us. Separate from the pleroma and removed from the divine order, in one singular, chaotic moment, her reckless act of creation shattered the cosmic framework, ripping through space-time like a tear. What emerged was not divine, not even entirely conscious. It was a malfunction, an unintended cosmic mishap that should never have existed. This accident became known as the Demiurge. This is where the story takes a dark turn. The Demiurge wasn't just a distorted fragment of creation. He was blind. He had no awareness of the true divine order, no memory of his origins, and no understanding that something greater than himself existed. In his blindness, he searched for meaning, as all beings thrown into existence do, and arrived at a terrifying conclusion: I must be God. This belief was the greatest catastrophe in cosmic history. The Demiurge didn't just think he was God. He declared it as absolute truth. Lacking access to the pleroma, he did the only thing he could. He constructed his own false version of reality, the material world. And this is the world we inhabit, a place not born from divine balance but from ignorance, created by a being who should never have existed. Because the Demiurge was oblivious to the true source of existence, everything he fashioned was flawed by design. Decay, death, hunger, and suffering were not accidents, but integral parts of a corrupt system built by a false god who believed himself supreme. But Sophia knew the truth. She recognized her mistake and, instead of abandoning this broken reality, she descended into it. Here, the narrative splits from mainstream religion. While most traditions portray the divine as distant, watching from above and issuing commandments, Sophia did the opposite. She didn't judge from afar. She entered the flawed system, becoming the first rebel against the Demiurge's rule. Different Gnostic traditions tell her story in various ways. Some suggest that Sophia's descent left her trapped within the material world, fragmented within human souls, meaning each of us carries a fragment of her divine essence, waiting to be set free. Others believe she worked in disguise, hiding knowledge within the system, whispering truths disguised as myths. Regardless of the version, the outcome remains the same. Sophia became the enemy of the Demiurge, not because she sought power, but because she knew the truth. She understood that this world, claimed by the Demiurge as his creation, was a flawed imitation of something far greater. And she possessed the one thing that could unravel his illusion: knowledge. The Gospel of Thomas should have altered everything. It should have exposed the illusion and rewritten history. But instead, it was buried, hidden away in a clay jar at Nag Hammadi for nearly 1,600 years. Why? Because this single text, more than any other, contains something that organized religion could never permit: a direct, unfiltered record of what the real teachings of Christ may have been. And they are nothing like what we were told. There are no miracles in the Gospel of Thomas, no virgin birth, no crucifixion, no resurrection. It doesn't speak of sin, nor does it command obedience to religious authorities. There is no promise of salvation through a church or priest. Instead, it's a collection of 114 cryptic sayings attributed to Jesus, and its message is the antithesis of what mainstream Christianity became. Salvation isn't about faith or worship, nor is it centered on Jesus himself. It's about knowledge, a hidden truth within you that you must discover on your own. If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you have will destroy you. Saying 70. Think about that. It's not the voice of an authoritarian God demanding obedience. It's a challenge, a warning, a test. The truth isn't handed to you. You must uncover it or remain trapped. The Gnostics believed that the material world was a deception, a prison designed to keep humanity blind. The only way out was through gnosis, direct, personal knowledge of the divine. That's why the Gospel of Thomas is so dangerous. It doesn't tell you to believe in Jesus, it tells you to become like him. He who drinks from my mouth will become as I am, and I myself will become him. Saying 108. This idea threatens the foundation of organized religion. If every person carries the divine within themselves, and if salvation comes from within, not from obedience to external authorities, then what need is there for priests, churches, or religious hierarchies? There is none. The entire structure collapses. And that's why this gospel was labeled heresy, condemned, and systematically erased from history, because it posed a direct threat to the power of those who claimed to be the gatekeepers of salvation. But it didn't completely vanish. Some of its ideas survived, hidden in mystical traditions, underground sects, and whispered among those who knew that mainstream history was a fabrication. And in 1945, the original text resurfaced, unchanged and untamed, still just as dangerous as ever. Because if the Gospel of Thomas is correct, then everything we've been told about religion is a lie. You don't need salvation from an external God, nor do you need to bow, obey, or wait for an afterlife. The kingdom of heaven isn't in the sky or in a church, nor is it something you obtain after death. It's already here, inside you and outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the sons of the living Father. Saying 3. Valentinus was not just a theologian. He was a significant Christian scholar of the 2nd century. He nearly became the Bishop of Rome, yet his version of Christianity didn't fit the system. It threatened to unravel it. His cosmology was a complete restructuring of reality. He taught that the universe wasn't created by one supreme deity, but by 30 divine emanations, or Aeons, existing in perfect balance within the pleroma, the realm of pure spirit. But a rupture occurred, leading to the creation of the material world, a flawed reflection of divine perfection. The Demiurge, the false creator, was not evil in the way the devil is depicted in mainstream religion. He was worse, he was ignorant. He believed he was the only God and built this world based on his misunderstanding of divinity. The Gnostics knew that everything you've been told about reality, who you are and where you come from, has been rewritten and controlled to prevent you from asking the right questions. They didn't seek salvation from a God who never intended to set them free. They sought knowledge, a way to break out of the prison of deception. And that's why these ideas remain dangerous. Once you begin to see through the illusion, you can't unsee it. Once you recognize the patterns, you can't return to the lie. The Gnostics weren't just philosophers, they were rebels. They stood against the political and religious powers of their time because they refused to be controlled. And if you've come this far, if you're still reading, maybe, just maybe, you're starting to see the truth too.